What if you were born as a Stasi informant? You might be hearing this for the first time. Don't worry, I'll explain. And I'm Red Compass. I'm here to make you experience different lives in every video. If you also enjoy epic stories, subscribe, like, and leave a cool comment. Because there are many more stories I have to tell. If you're ready, let's begin. You took your first breath in 1,960 inches, a small apartment in one of East Berlin's outlying neighborhoods. I don't want to burden you too much with harsh truths, my friend, but you need to know that you have to fend for yourself. Yes, even though you're still very young. Because your mother and father are factory workers, they always come home late in the evenings. And the time they do spend at home, they don't really spend with you. They're constantly watching television. On the screen, there's always the same channel, the state channel. There is no other channel to watch anyway. You sleep, and in the morning the same routine begins again. This is your normal life, and it looks normal to you because you don't know any other life. Not yet. Until the age of 6, your days pass with the same dull monotony. The year you turn 6 and start primary school, your teacher says something to the class. You're old enough now. It's time to join the Pioneer. The Pioneer, or the Young Pioneers Organisation, was East Germany's state youth organisation. Membership wasn't mandatory, but the cost of not joining was so steep that nearly all children signed up. Those who didn't join couldn't take part in school activities, couldn't go on camp trips, and for them, getting into university would remain nothing but a dream. It was systematic pressure, yet no one would ever say so openly. They would simply say, everyone joins. And so, not wanting to be deprived of all of this, you joined too. They gave you a blue neckerchief. You attended flag ceremonies, sang anthems, went to weekend meetings. After a while, just like your friends, you began to believe in it. When you turned 10, one morning, a classmate didn't come to school. You asked the teacher, who said they moved away, and said nothing more. But moving away didn't happen like this. Just the day before, your friend had been playing football with you. When you asked your mother at home, her voice dropped and she said, you shouldn't ask about things like that. You didn't fully understand what that meant. But instinctively you learned, some things are not asked, some things are not seen. This was the first silent lesson the system ever taught you, and no one had defined it as a lesson. When you turned 14, you were now a Thalman pioneer. The neckerchief turned from blue to red. The meetings grew more serious. You were no longer just singing anthems. You were giving speeches about the righteousness of the state and the superiority of socialism. And you noticed something. Everyone who spoke sounded remarkably alike. No one said anything different. Those with different thoughts stayed silent or were silenced. You couldn't yet see the difference between the two, but you were slowly being moulded into the same shape. At 17, in your final year of high school, you had engineering on your mind. You had sat the university entrance exams and submitted your application. One morning, the school principal called you to his office. Inside were two men in grey suits. They gestured for you to sit down. Politely. We have good news for you, said one of them. University places seem to be full, but we've been watching you for a long time. You're an intelligent young person, loyal to your state. We want to help you. If you work with us, perhaps we can do something for you, he continued. Refusing was theoretically possible, but sitting in that room, you knew what saying no to those two men would mean. The door to university would close. Your family's job and livelihood would be affected. The system was saying all of this without ever saying it. They extended a document for you to sign, and you signed it. You were now officially an inoffizieller Mitarbeiter, an unofficial collaborator. They gave you a code name. When assigning these code names, care was taken so that some received a random occupation name and others a random personal name. Officially, you did not exist, only that code name did. By your 20s, you had finished university. You started working as an engineer in a factory. From the outside, your life looked perfectly ordinary. You went to work in the morning, came home in the evening, and on Sundays, you visited your mother. Yes, you could go home and visit your family. For now, once a month, someone waited for you at a quiet corner of the city. Each meeting lasted no more than 5 minutes. You handed over the paper in your hand, and they quickly slipped it into their pocket and walked away. So, what was written on this mysterious piece of paper? It contained numerous notes. What had happened at the factory that month? Who was listening to Western radio? Who was corresponding with relatives in West Germany? Who had criticised the state? Who was dissatisfied? And who had thoughts of escape? These seemed like small things to you. You were only observing and taking notes. You weren't getting your hands dirty. One day you were having lunch with a co-worker. He opened up to you. He was having trouble with his family, tired of his job, and said he was thinking of crossing to the west. The conversation ended and you went home. That night you jotted down part of what had been said. A month later, you wrote it in your report. As fate would have it, 3 months later, that man lost his job. An investigation had been opened against him. When you found out, you felt a pang inside, but it passed, because the system required it. If you felt remorse for what you had done in the past, you wouldn't be able to do more of it in the future. Toward the end of your 20s, the system was asking more of you. This time, your task was not just to watch and write reports, it was to intervene. And for that, there was a special method. The name of this method meant decomposition in German. The aim was not to imprison someone, it was to destroy them invisibly, without them noticing. The system worked like this. The homes of targeted individuals would be secretly entered at night. Belongings in drawers would be slightly shifted from their place. The sugar and salt in the kitchen would be swapped. A book on the shelf would be turned upside down. Small, meaningless things. But when this repeated every week in different forms, the mind would try to make sense of what was happening, and failing to do so, would gradually begin to betray itself. And that wasn't all. Anonymous letters implying that the target was unreliable would be sent to their workplace. Baseless rumours would be spread among their neighbours, their medical appointments would be cancelled, their banking transactions would be delayed. None of this would appear to have any connection to the Stasi. Your role was a cog in this machine. Whispering something about someone at their workplace was enough. The system took over the rest. On the night of November 9th, 1989, you were sitting quietly at home watching television. On screen, a state official was holding a press conference. A journalist asked about the new travel regulations. The man glanced at his notes. He hadn't read them properly and said, "Of course, effective immediately." That wasn't actually what he had meant to say, but the moment people heard it, they poured into the streets. Thousands gathered at the border checkpoints. The guards didn't know what to do and found their answer in opening the wall. You sat there, staring at the screen. You felt that something was ending, but you didn't yet know exactly what. A few days later, a call came from the office. Destroy the files. The paper shredders worked furiously. The motors overheated, some burned out. Then papers began to be torn by hand. Bag after bag of scraps piled up, being loaded onto trucks. You could no longer keep up. People had been waiting for this day for years. They surrounded the Stasi headquarters. They went inside and, before it was too late, stopped the destruction. Files, reports, records accumulated over years, the vast majority were saved. And unfortunately, my friend, there were documents among the registered files that bore your signature. Fortunately, you managed to escape somehow before people descended upon you. A few years later, Parliament passed a resolution. The files would be open to the public. Everyone could apply to access the records kept about them. And just as expected, millions of people applied. And for many, today was the heaviest day of their lives. Because the files contained not only the fact that they had been watched, but also by whom. Some had been followed by neighbours, some by co-workers, and some even by their own spouses, all for the sake of a system, over many long years. You knew they would come to your door one day, and so they did. One of the people you had written reports about for years had filed an application. Your code name appeared in their file. Every single line you had written about them was there, waiting to confront you, but you were fortunate. The state did not prosecute you. The courts ruled that the vast majority of those who had operated within the system did not bear individual criminal responsibility. The laws were interpreted this way. You were officially clean, but that was of no use, because society was a different kind of court. They were not particularly merciful toward those who had been watching them for years. Your phone no longer rang. Your neighbours didn't even want to make eye contact with you. The respect you once had was gone. No matter how hard you struggled to accept it, the state had used you, my friend, and the things it used, it discarded when they were no longer needed. Furthermore, despite years of serving the system owed you nothing because in the records, there was no such person as you. There was only the code name they had given you. You spent the rest of your life quietly in a small apartment. You were neither prosecuted nor celebrated. You remained stuck somewhere between the two. You drew your last breath in that apartment, in silence, Even the realization of your absence took days. Afterward, a small piece appeared in a corner of the newspaper. Your name, your date of birth, your date of death. Nothing else was written. I think I should wrap up the video. Don't forget to mention in the comments which life you'd like to experience in the next video, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any great content. See you in another life. Goodbye.